Hi everyone, Matt here from Proof Fly Fishing. This is the first video in a series that we're doing on how to restore a bamboo fly rod. And so in this video what I want to do is I want to talk you through some things to look for if you're at like a garage sale or you're searching on eBay for an inexpensive rod that you're going to restore. And then also some things to avoid or at least to consider when looking for a rod. Now, I know some people are going to be restoring rods they have maybe belong to their father, their grandfather, and some of the things I'll say here might apply, but you know, if it has sentimental value, there are very few things that cannot be fixed on these rods. It's just a matter of what you want to put into them. So the first thing, if you go to different garage sales and check eBay, you're going to find a ton of different rods, and it can be a little overwhelming to know what you have and what you're going to need to put into it to get it fishing well. So a couple things to look for in a rod. One is that all the sections are there. So if you have a two-piece rod, make sure the tip fits the butt section. If you have a three-piece, make sure you fit all the pieces together to make sure that they're from the same rod. It's not uncommon to have multiple pieces at a garage sale, or someone throws something up on eBay and they don't really know what they have, and you get it and the pieces don't match. So whatever way you want to use, try to make sure that the pieces are all there. Some rods will have an extra tip, which is always nice, but if not, again, that shouldn't be a deal breaker. Another thing to consider, and again, these can be fixed, but the ferrules of the rod. If you can find a rod that has decent ferrules, it's going to simplify the process of restoring the rod, and it's going to dramatically cut the expense of restoring the rod. Things to avoid: ferrules that are split, ferrules that are too loose. You know, some people have found ways to tighten ferrules. I've never found one that works great for me. And if you can find ones that are a little too tight, that would be preferred over ones that are too loose. We can adjust the width. So in this one, I'll put it together and you hear that nice pop. That's what we're going for. Now this one has been cleaned already, so you might not get that initially. Often when you find these rods, they're going to be tarnished. They'll have dirt on the inside of the ferrules. They'll be tarnished on the male side of the ferrules. So don't worry too much about it. Aim for too tight rather than too loose when it comes to ferrules. Something else that doesn't matter a whole lot. This is the rod I'm going to be restoring in the video. It's a Tonkin Queen. It's a classic blue collar bamboo fly rod. And on this one, it just has one tip, but if you notice, the tip is about 3 inches shorter than the butt section. So my guess is somewhere along the way, this tip got broken and somebody reinstalled a tip top and kept fishing it, which is great. I took this out before winter set in and did some yard casting with it, and it's a fantastic little 4-weight. So I think it'll be just fine once we get it cleaned up. Another thing, generally the rods you're going to find on eBay and in garage sales are going to be longer and heavier. You'll see a lot of 3-weights, or excuse me, 3-piece rods, and most of those are going to fall in the 6 to 7 weight category. If you can find a shorter, lighter rod, by all means pick it up. This is about a little over 7 foot, even with that broken tip section, and it's a 4-weight, but I've seen probably for every 10 heavyweight rods that I've seen out there, I've seen maybe one of these lighter, smaller rods. So they can be great for dry flies too, which is kind of classic bamboo territory. So things that don't matter when you're looking for a rod. One is the grip. You can see this grip is pretty, looks like somebody sanded it, tried to clean it. It's pitted, it's stained, it's just kind of nasty. So it doesn't matter at all. We're going to take it off. It's inexpensive to replace and it's easy to replace. Another thing is the reel seat. This one has this kind of green plastic reel seat, and we're going to take that off and put a more classic bamboo seat on there. It's actually kind of nice if you're at a garage sale and you find one that's missing a reel seat. Sometimes you can get them for, you know, next to nothing, because, you know, the people selling it, or, you know, you just say, oh, it's broken, I can't fix, you know, I can't fish it, and you know, you'll get it for a song. Let's see, another thing that is not a huge deal, and you'll see this quite often, are rods with a set. Now, what a set is when the rod has a bend in it while not being flexed. So in its relaxed position, you sight it down, and it's bent. Now, it's not a huge deal. There are ways we can fix a set. We can correct a set to some extent. Sets you want to be, you know, often what happens is people don't store their rods properly. So they lean them up against the wall of the basement, and there they sit for like 10 years, and in the heat of summer and in the cold of winter, or just over time, those rods are kind of like, get a bow in them just from resting. But we'll talk about that later when we start to restore this rod, as to what to do if you have a set in that rod. Another thing that doesn't matter if it's missing guides, or if the guides are in just terrible shape. This rod has just tiny guides on it, which is pretty common. And like the stripping guide here looks like it's about a 4 millimeter. It's actually tough to get a line through. But we're going to talk about guide size and guide spacing, and whether you want to adjust that or keep the originals. We'll do that in probably 2 videos from now. Things to avoid when you're looking for like total deal breakers. One is if a section's missing. If you've got a 3-piece rod and the middle section's missing, well, it's really of almost no use to you. If you get rot or mildew, sometimes these rods are left out in the garage and the finish is worn off them, and you'll actually get mildew that's getting in between the sections of the cane. And what happens over time is those tend to delaminate on you. I guess you could try restoring them. My advice would be to look for something else. Another thing, and again, this can be fixed, but it can be very tricky, is if the rod sections are coming apart. You know, bamboo rods are traditionally made with 6 pieces in each section, and they're glued together. And sometimes that glue will come apart and you'll see the splits kind of opening up. They can be fixed. If I can find a rod that's delaminated, we'll do it. I'll show you how that process works. But all things being equal, if you can find one that's not coming apart like that, that's structurally sound, I would aim for that. Let's see, missing ferrules, broken ferrules. You can buy ferrules, you can buy replacements. They are somewhat on the expensive side. We'll do a video on how to install new ferrules at some point, so we'll show you that if that's the route you want to take. But last thing is, when you find a rod, especially if you get a rod that's signed and you don't know a whole lot about it, before you start stripping that rod down, I would recommend going online, doing a little research, see what you have. It's a great way too to kind of establish line weight on these rods. They can be a little bit tricky, so you know, you're not sure if you have a 3 weight or a 5 weight, and so by doing a little bit of research, you can narrow that down a bit. And also you can be sure that you don't have a classic rod. Maybe you have a Garrison that you just happen to come by, and it would be a shame to do anything to that before having someone professional take a look at it. So that's pretty much it for this video. So go ahead, and if you have the rod, you can assess kind of what you're looking at. If you're looking at a couple different rods, go ahead and pick one out that you're going to restore. And in the next video, we're going to talk about creating a map for the guides and the reel seat and the grip, and all different things to consider. And after that, we're going to start stripping this down. We're actually going to strip this down to the bare cane. We're going to take all the guides off. We're going to take the finish off, the grip, reel seat, tip top. We're going to leave the ferrules, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as far as how to clean those. So in the meantime, go find your rod and we'll see you back here soon to start taking it apart. Thank you.